Today, the White House explains why they are rejecting FEMA aid to Ohio, but is it actually true? Joe Biden's doctor says he is fit for office. There's just one little problem with that declaration. We will get into that. And an update on one of the balloons our military shot down from the sky. I'll give you a spoiler on that one, too. It's just really, really embarrassing. We've got all of that and more coming up, but it all starts right now. Happy Friday. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and I am joined today by Eric July, BlazeTV contributor and founder and owner of Ripaverse Comics, also joined by actor and producer extraordinaire Matthew Marsden, who everybody likes to listen to because his accent makes him sound very fancy.
But I'm not at all.
You're not.
So it's a total fraud.
You're not
but
fancy.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Intelligent and fancy. I'm neither of those things.
But you sound like you are.
Yeah,
no,
no,
you are. You are. Stop
let it
that.
continue.
So I want to remind everyone, this is going to be the last time you're going to hear this announcement because next week it's actually going to happen. There's been some confusion on what's taking place. If you are watching on YouTube, you are watching one of two places. You are either watching on BlazeTV's YouTube or you are watching on the News and Why It Matters YouTube page. We are staying on YouTube. I've seen people like, oh, well, I'm going to miss you when you go behind the paywall at BlazeTV because we can't afford a subscription. We appreciate our subscribers very much, and we do some exclusive content for them as well. But this show is not leaving YouTube. It's just going to move exclusively to the News and Why It Matters YouTube. So that there's a visual there, right there. If you are already subscribed to this page, nothing changes for you. You're still going to get the show every day. If you are only watching on BlazeTV's YouTube, you're going to lose the show come Monday if you don't go over to that YouTube that we just showed and subscribe so that you still watch the show. I hope that has clarified things because I know there was some confusion. But make sure that you go do that because we don't want to lose you guys on Monday. Oh, and by the way, there's no drama. People are like, they're moving the show because Sarah's leaving Blaze. I'm not leaving Blaze. This is still a Blaze production. I'm not leaving Blaze. There's no drama. There's no drama. We just want to stop double posting it. And you know, Big Tech doesn't like BlazeTV's YouTube channel very much. So we're gonna see how long it takes for them to hate me. I don't think it's going to take very long. I actually think I'm already on their list, but we're going to move it over anyway. So I want to get into this Ohio train derailment story. It just keeps getting, A, more devastating to hear about, and B, more infuriating to see how the federal government has, I would say, handled it, but really it's lack of handling it, right? And, you know, the federal government, I think all three of us at this table would argue, like, should not be involved in nearly all of the things that they're involved in. But if you're gonna be involved and encroach in people's lives, now might be the time to do so over in East Palestine, Ohio. So where we left you guys last was that Mike DeWine, the governor there, had been daily asking the White House, hey, where's FEMA? We could really use some aid. We've got residents here who can't drink their water, even though you guys are telling us to drink the water. They can't go back into their homes. They're having problems. We need some assistance. The White House continued to push back and say no. Well, they finally come out and explained why they have not granted Mike DeWine's request for disaster relief. And they said, FEMA actually is on the front lines when there is a hurricane or a tornado. This situation is different. East Palestine needs are much more expansive than what FEMA can provide. So they're basically saying FEMA doesn't handle this type of thing. Now, that's not true because, it just takes 2 seconds to Google. It's very easy. You just go and you look, and on FEMA's own website, they say in all of their materials that the president could make a disaster declaration under the Stafford Act when an incident has catastrophic consequences. Now, this is taken from a PDF on specifically oil and chemical spills. So you would think that this would fall under the oil and chemical part of FEMA. And this is the oil and chemical incident annex, where this is coming from. So obviously very few chemical incidents have ever involved a Stafford Act declaration. But the idea that the White House, the same White House, by the way, who was fine saying we have the power to force you to take a jab that has no long-term testing, right? The same White House, by the way, who takes it upon themselves to say it's okay for the federal government, it's okay for states, whoever, to force restaurant owners to shut down, to force business owners to shut down. It's okay that we have all of this force that we want to use on you, the American citizen, but when it comes time for them to actually butt their nose in something I don't know, maybe people would argue should be butting their noses into, they're quiet. Meanwhile, of course, I like to remind you guys every day, they're spending billions of dollars of your money, sending it over to Ukraine to help Ukrainian citizens when the people in East Palestine, Ohio, can't figure out what the hell is in their water. I want to play for you J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance, who is over there in Ohio. He rubs a stick in the creek and just looking at what comes out of the water, like there are big freaking problems there that need to be addressed. Watch.
Hey guys, so I'm here at Leslie Run and there's dead worms and dead fish all throughout this water. Something I just discovered is that if you scrape the creek bed, it's like chemical is coming out of the ground. Can you come here and let me just show this to people. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this in the camera, but watch this.
Oh, you can see it in the camera.
Just see that chemical pop out of the creek. This is disgusting. And the fact that we have not cleaned up the train crash, the fact that these chemicals are still seeping in the ground is an insult to the people who live in East Palestine. Do not forget these people. We got to keep applying pressure. That's how we're going to fix this problem.
So, I mean, we've got our EPA telling people, it's safe, you can drink the water. You've got the federal government telling people it's okay to go back to your homes, even though all of the reports on the ground are that we have people who are going back to their homes for short amounts of time, and they're like, my eyes were stinging, they're burning, my skin felt, itchy, and it got red, and I couldn't stay for very long. Even though, of course, the federal government, they're all the experts, right? They know. Everything they tell you is gospel. Of course it's safe to go back to your home. Of course it's safe to drink the tap water. I've seen videos of a woman adding milk to her coffee that was made with the water from this particular area, and the coffee fizzes. When the cold milk is dropped, the coffee fizzes. That doesn't happen in normal coffee. But the government is telling you it's okay. It's safe. Just like all of the other things that they have imposed upon you. It's safe. Don't worry. I want to play one more clip of J.D. Vance, who is challenging the EPA to come on over. Come on over to Ohio. We have a big glass of water for you to drink yourselves if you think it's safe. Watch.
It reminds me of that scene in Erin Brockovich where she puts the water in front of them and says, if you think it's clean, we brought this water from, the community that was affected. Look, I think that if the EPA administrator wants to stand here and tell people that the tap water is safe, by all means, they should be willing to drink it.
Are you?
No, I told Tom, I think that if I was living here, I would drink the bottled water for now. Better safe than sorry, especially since it's being provided for free. That's the guidance I would give. But again, residents are going to make their own decisions on this. But my honest personal advice is I'd be drinking the bottled water right now.
The total and complete negligence of the Biden administration on literally everything that has happened in the country since he took office continues to astound me. I feel like I should not be surprised, and yet it still astounds me.
Well, I think there's a lot of different levels to take with this that we have to take into consideration that set the scene. Now, with the federal government, and whether it be with the EPA and their other sort of organizations, they already have, and it applies to virtually all states, certain rules that apply to where even the individuals, the governments that are within that territory cannot act. We can make this personal by looking at what happened with the whole ERCOT situation here, where you had, which is silly that this had to happen, where Abbott had to request from the federal government that they be able to use their own energy. That's a thing. So the thing about that makes the government so dangerous, because I think we get way too short-sighted when stuff like this happens. We want, all right, well, it's immediate aid, it's immediate fix the problem. I'm looking at it like, all right, let's look at what caused the issue. We can't do anything about what happened now, but let's try to prevent it. And that is that the government, the federal government in particular, has monopolized pretty much everything. They set the rules per se on how energy can be used. They're taxing you to do it way too much on that. So you have institutions that are within the geographical area, let's say in Ohio or wherever, that are giving money to the federal government. They're saying we're going to withhold the money, even though we stole it from you. We'll give it to Ukraine. We'll give it to all sorts of other welfare statism, and we'll pick and choose as far as how much we're going to spend to do that. Just look at what happened with the whole COVID stuff and how much money was spent by the federal government multiple times. When they actually want to act, they certainly will act and spend. And that's my fundamental issue with how the federal government operates. Really, all governments, for that matter, operate, but more specifically the federal government, and that they govern over so many people, and they set the rules. So when crap hits the fan, everybody has to look to them and say, hey, you're supposed to be saving us. And then they, at their own discretion, can decide whether or not they're actually going to do that. And oftentimes they'll say, no. Is it for politics? Is it not? Who knows? But either way, the fact that they get to make the decision and they're doing it with the money that you had, this is the thing I'm trying to get Americans to understand. This is why regulation, this is why more governmental control needs to be scaled back to prevent instances such as this. This isn't a problem that just manifests itself because of some spill of chemicals. That's not what it is. This is talking about decades of issues, and it has the American people that are so accustomed to looking to the federal government, asking and expecting them for help. And what happens when they don't do anything? People sit there and like, oh, what do we do?
What do we do? Yeah.
Small government.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's it in essence, right? What we're saying is the government has become this big bloated monster that has its tentacles in absolutely everything, tends to get involved in things that it really shouldn't. And we're seeing this a lot, right? We're seeing them come into our homes, into the schools, and as you've spoken a lot about, the transgender this and that and this. And when really if they are going to do anything, what they should be doing is things like this, right? Fixing this, like making sure we get a really good, orderly withdrawal from places like Afghanistan. Like that's what they are meant to do. And as Eric said, and I was waiting for Eric to say, like, the government's got to go. But the truth of the matter is even when it comes down to, and I have this look, I come from a country which is pretty much socialized, right? England is pretty much socialized. And the concept of actually a community coming together and working together to solve a problem is gone, right? Yep. So what happens is you are looking to the overlords, and look, we see this even in families, right? Like if your kid punctures a tire, teach him how to fix it, and when he does it again, tell him to go and fix it the way that you taught him to do it. So then what you do is you become the problem solvers. You don't look to the overlords, because if you look to the overlords, then they have power over you. And that's what this is all about at the end of the day. And so, and again, I know, like I said, I love Eric and what he says about this. I'm totally on board, which we will never see this unless we get some really courageous politicians that are going to say, actually, I'm going to give myself term limits, and I'm actually going to cut back on the things that I believe that we're getting too involved in, because again, it becomes about money and power and this and that. But the truth of the matter is this is going to continue to happen unless we have a reduction in government. If we take away the bureaucracy, because like you said, it's all like, oh, well, I've got to ask this guy for permission for that. Like, how is it a governor of a state which is pretty much, let me tell you, because I'm from Europe, like you can fit England, I think, into Texas like 6 times. Right? It's a country on itself. It's, California has the 5th biggest economy in the world. They should be, well, apart from him, because he's a moron, right, that doesn't know what he's doing with his hair, right? But you should be able to fix your own problems. Like, you should be able to go to the border and solve your own problems at the border, right? And everyone else can do whatever they want. But small government people, like, please, if you have a candidate that's saying small government, please vote for them.
Yeah, I got to tell you, if they just turned over the border to like my community right here. We'd have it
Oh,
solved.
yeah.
We'd have it solved real damn quick. Let me just tell you, it's very simple. All right, we've got more to come, including, if you can believe this, Joe Biden's physician has come out and signed off on Joe Biden being fit for office. There's just one small problem with that. We'll get into that after the break. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Moink. So, look, 60% of United States pork production comes from a company that's owned by the Chinese, and they give their hogs something called ractopamine, which is banned in like 160 countries, including China, but you're going to find it in your grocery aisle every day. That's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the foods that you are buying in the grocery store. If you want to buy cleaner and better, you got to try Moink. They deliver grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pork, chicken, wild-caught Alaskan salmon. They're going to deliver it directly to your door. And Moink farmers farm like our grandparents did, so you really can taste the difference. We all know the family farm does it better. The Moink difference is like, okay, so let me tell you this. Before we found Moink, we bought bacon every once in a while. And I mean, my son was like, he's American, so he likes bacon, okay? But he wasn't like obsessed with it. And then when we started bringing Moink into the house and we would do the Moink bacon, and now he's like, can we please have Moink bacon? Can we please have Moink? Like everything he asks for when it comes to meat, he literally says Moink because he tastes the difference too. It really is the best meat that you can get. You can keep American farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/news right now. You will get free filet mignon in every order for a year. Beef is expensive. Don't sleep on this deal. It is moinkbox.com/news. That is MOINK box.com/news. White House physician Kevin O'Connor claimed in a memo yesterday that the results of Joe Biden's most recent physical shows that he is in sufficient shape to remain serving as president of the United States. I would just like to slide in there. There was no cognitive test that was administered. So he said he's a healthy, tell me, I'm going to read you guys a statement, and I'm going to ask you guys if this sounds like the Joe Biden that you know. President Biden remains a healthy, vigorous 80-year-old male who is fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency, to include those as chief executive, head of state, and commander-in-chief. He also listed that he was, he's treated for like reflux, seasonal allergies, neuropathy of the feet, a stiffened gait, non-valvular atrial fibrillation. None of these are serious, he says. And, again, no cognitive test. I wonder why. Possibly because if they did one, they would know that he would fail it spectacularly. So they're like, oh, we just won't give one. And then we don't have to say that he failed it. That's the only conclusion I can come to.
That, the
healthy,
whole,
vigorous.
No, not Joe
He's
Biden.
vigorous.
But it's like that whole, we investigate a meme, that is. Like, we've investigated ourselves and found no kind of wrongdoing. It's essentially what this is, where it's like, hey, our guys are saying that he's fit, and therefore he is, when clearly anybody with, you don't even need a whole brain, a quarter of a brain can see, because that's what he has, but a quarter of a brain can absolutely see that that guy ain't got it all upstairs. You know what I mean? And it's obvious, it's painfully obvious. And to try to present it to the American people just because some expert, it goes to show why people don't trust these experts anyway. Like, because we sit and see this guy who is losing it, and then you're going to sit up and tell, oh, he's not only good, he's doing great.
He's vigorous.
He's vigorous of all
things. That's what I think.
And that's like, no, man, he's falling upstairs, he's out of his mind. Like, that guy got some problems. And 80-year-old people often do.
Right.
So it's not even anything that's saying like anything that's ableist. The dude's 80 years old, 80 years of age. He should be sitting down somewhere chilling out.
Right.
Like other 80-year-olds should be doing. Instead, we're expecting him to, I guess, defend the country of the United States of America, which, in itself is insane. Yeah,
Eric brings up a great point. It's like, are we really pretending like any 80-year-olds are vigorous?
Yeah. No, look, I don't know about you guys. I don't know if I'm probably the only person that thinks this, but from the moment he announced that he was running, I was like, is there something, what is he going to say? Like, I don't know what he's going to say. I don't know. Right? You sit there and you wonder, like, what mistake is going to come out of his gob, right? And then I actually disagree with you on the experts because I think that whoever is pumping him full of whatever that is, I want some of it, right? Because I've got a lot of kids and I need to get up in the morning and sometimes I can't do it. And I look at him and I'm like, how are you even existing? I don't understand. He just looks like they kind of pull him out and then they like put some batteries in him and push him out and he comes out for like 5 minutes and then he walks off like this, right? And then he goes back into his closet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, do you remember that movie, The Reanimator? Like, I feel like he's been reanimated. I don't, but no, in all seriousness, of course he's not going to get a cognitive test.
Right.
And I just wish, honestly, for me, I'd rather people say, he's 80 years old.
Right.
You know, I'd have more respect for them if you said, listen, he's 80. Like, you know, sometimes things, because we've all seen it. It's not like it's hidden.
Right.
You know, I mean, we've seen him say it, and you sit there going, what are you saying? I don't understand what that is. So just come out and say it, right? It's not like it's hidden.
I mean, I would also argue like a physical test to me is less important than a cognitive test when you're talking about the president of the United States. Like, let him sit around all day. If he needs to, because physically his body is too frail, but his mind is still there, he can still call the shots from the couch. Like, I mean, I would say I don't think any 80-year-olds should be president, right? Like, I just don't. Sorry. I know I'm going to get the Trump people in here like, but Trump! I understand. I do feel like Trump is somewhat of an anomaly because he does seem to like really have his wits about him. Like you don't see any feebleness coming from Donald Trump. But I just mean as a general rule, I don't think that a bunch of old people should be in charge of the country. But I'm just saying, like, if you had to pick one test, I'm picking the cognitive test.
Yeah.
I like that to me is way more important than any sort of, physicality situation. Okay, I want to, before we run out of time, I want to go to an update with this balloon saga, right? So last weekend, everyone was watching, like, are we going to be taken over by aliens? What's going on? There's all these UFOs. The government says they don't know what they are. They're shooting more balloons down. Well, it turns out that one of the UFOs that was shot down last weekend by the Air Force with, just a $400,000 missile could have just been a $12 balloon belonging to an Illinois balloon enthusiast club, which that's very cute that those exist. And this club is very, very cute. It's adorable. This is the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade. They said that they worry that they were trying to track one of their balloons that they had and it went missing. And they're worried that was the mystery object that was taken out by the military over Canada. So,
by the way, shouldn't the FAA be worried about a balloon that goes that high? I mean, you can take down a jetliner by a duck or whatever, a bird going into the engine. Mm-hmm. Like, you'd think that you'd be worried about a giant balloon that's flying at 60,000 feet, that might, like, do a little bit of damage, maybe, like, be concerned about that. Like,
I mean, I would also hope that like our military has the capacity and technology to be able to tell if it's a $12 balloon from Hobby Lobby or if it's like something, from another country that's being used to spy. Like, I'm not an expert, so maybe don't trust me. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, it feels like there should be some differences there that we should be able to tell before we spend $400,000 shooting it out of the sky.
You can imagine the Russians now like, we will take over America with the cunning use of balloons.
I mean, seriously, like, it's embarrassing.
I don't know, man. Like, that's cool, the little I didn't know that was a thing, man. Everybody has
so
their hobbies.
Cute.
I think that's...
Look at them, they're so
cute.
That's healthy.
That's healthy, man. It's good that people
It's so wholesome.
have their hobbies. I mean, unfortunately, you'll get a shot down with a $400,000 missile.
Yeah, they're like, can we get our money back, please? God.
That's a lot of money you spending on missiles, which some of you probably could have just poked with a pencil, and it would have went down. But I guess they weren't available. Let's go ahead and spend whatever. And I'm pretty sure that guy, whoever was operating the vehicle, probably felt real good about himself. Like, look what the hell I did. I shot this damn thing down. Come to find out, it's some dude just a bunch of kids and old folk just, hey, we want to play with balloons and we go throw one up there, and that's all that you did. And really what this is, on a serious note, this comes from them getting egg on their face with the first situation. So now it's like, okay, we're shooting down everything. We're trying to make sure everybody understands that we're in charge, and it's actually getting worse.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not only the $400,000 missile. It's, I think the other times they shot down with an F-22 Raptor, which is a ridiculous amount of money to actually get it fueled, get it up in the air. I don't know if it's like $40,000 an hour or more than that, like to have them up there in the air, to scramble them, the wages, the pilots. But here's a little bit, apparently, I have a little bit of balloon knowledge on this. I do.
Do you belong to the balloon brigade?
I don't, but I'm totally down with them, because I think that's awesome. But so apparently, when you put helium or hydrogen, is it hydrogen in
You're the expert, not me.
I don't know,
You tell
helium
me.
or some of the lium, right? And it's aluminium. Anyway, when you put that in a balloon and it goes up that high, it's not like it's pressurized down here, so it doesn't pop. So actually, if you did stick a pencil in it, it doesn't deflate like a pop. It actually contains the air.
Oh.
See how intelligent that sounded because I said it in a British accent?
It's true.
Isn't that amazing?
And you said aluminium.
It's aluminium.
Aluminium. That did sound really
Yeah,
fancy.
it's
And
kinda
I was like,
crazy.
wow, I've been saying that wrong this whole time. Okay, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Raycon. So Raycon, we just recently had to buy another pair of Raycons at my house. Why? Because they were mine, and everyone in my family kept stealing them because they're so good. They offer premium audio at a really, really good price point. So I'm just saying, if you're spending money on earbuds that you are like have stems sticking out of your ears, that's dumb. I'm sorry if it's offensive. It's just, why are you weighing your ear down with a stem that is not necessary? You don't need it. You can get the same audio, premium audio quality, by the way, saving money, and have the earbud go directly in your ear and fit comfortably. And I work out in these puppies. They don't move. Okay, so you got to try them. By the way, Raycon offers buy now and pay later options, and every purchase has a very, very easy and free return guarantee. But you're not going to want to return them because they're awesome. You can go to buyraycon.com/Y to get 15% off of your order. That is BUY, buyraycon.com/Y for 15% off. Senator Josh Hawley announced legislation on Wednesday that would allow those who were harmed by undergoing sex change procedures as minors to bring legal action against the individuals and entities who provided the procedures. This is called the Protecting Our Kids from Child Abuse Act. And this, just for those of you who may not recall, or maybe you didn't catch the story, this comes after it was his state, Missouri, that we had that whistleblower come forward and talk about all of the, horrifying abuses going on at the St. Louis Children's Hospital, their transgender medical center, that they were, mutilating children and not giving informed consent. And it was really bad. I'm not a crier, and I choked up as I was reading it and talking about it because this is a very appropriately titled act, Protecting Our Kids from Child Abuse Act, because that's absolutely exactly what it is. But I don't know. I'm not optimistic that it's going to go anywhere, which is the problem, right? We want to champion these legislators who put forth these bills that 10 years ago, I feel like would not have been controversial. It would not have been controversial. It would have sailed through the House and the Senate regardless of who was in power. And honestly, the only reason why it's not already on the books, this is what I keep telling people, the only reason why, let's take the state of Texas. The only reason why we're arguing about this right now and pushing lawmakers in Texas to ban children from being allowed to be mutilated is because lawmakers never concocted a world in which that would even be possible, right? 10 years ago, nobody thought, well, we better make sure to include protections for children from all of these doctors chopping their breasts off as young girls. We better make sure to include protections in the law for that because they may need to sue later. Nobody could have even comprehended that this is what was around the corner. That's the only reason why it's not on the books now. Well, now half the country, or at least half of our lawmakers, are totally woke and don't want to, I don't know, offend transgender people by saying like, hey, what's happening to you guys in your community is devastating, and we want to make sure to protect the people who like aren't happy with it. And instead, I have to believe that this isn't going to go anywhere. And it's really frustrating for me because this should, like, it is the least controversial thing ever. And somehow in 2023 in the United States of America, this is controversial.
Yeah, I mean, from a strictly libertarian perspective, like this is like an act of aggression. Let's be clear. When you are mutilating children, doing sometimes irreversible damage to children, that is absolutely an act of aggression. And even in a libertarian, hell, anarchist social order, that's not a thing that you're going to be allowed to do, right? Your head's probably going to be on a stake in the event that you even assume that that's something that's rightful. See, what happened with this whole trans nonsense is that, unfortunately, people allowed them to weaponize their own supposed victimhood, in which these people have unfortunately claimed that in the event that you don't affirm and validate their existence and whatever the hell is in their mind, then you're going to kill them because they are going to kill themselves. That's insane, but that's exactly what happened. That's what the whole gender affirming care is about. It's about them saying that, well, if they don't do it, well, this person, this young person might end up doing something to themselves. So this is why we have to push for them to be able to do it, even though by all data purposes, I've said this on the show before, nothing changes in that regards to the self-harm after the change anyway. It's almost as if there's just something going on upstairs that we need to be dealing with, but we don't deal with it anymore. In fact, we coddle it. Hell, in fact, we encourage it now, and now it's infected these young people. But it's really simple as far as why it does that. It's because these older folk who do that or are into that, or they may have transitioned themselves, they need children to validate themselves, which is why they are pushing that on that impressionable population. Because it's like, hey, if you are a kid, we talk to, I always forget her name every time we're on the show, Sarah, the young lady that we talked
Chloe
to.
Cole.
Chloe Cole, that we talked to on the show, and how it's basically like, hey, you have to do this because we're protecting her by doing this, even though that's the complete opposite of what's happening. You are abusing children. Doctors are in on it. And I hate the fact that they just get full immunity simply because, well, they went to school for a very, very long time and now they're into mutilating kids. You're a sick person and something is damn wrong with you.
Yeah.
You have to have people that are willing to do it, right? If there were no people willing to do it, then it wouldn't get done. Right? So I think we have a massive moral issue in the country. It's a huge, I mean, we would say it's a spiritual battle, right? It's a spiritual battle, but there's a moral issue here because it seems that whenever you talk about sex, that you can't say definitively that something is right or wrong, right? We've been told that you can't say that. You can't say that this is not, say, for example, in line with natural law. You can't say that. It's off limits. So what has happened is this is bled into all different aspects of society where there is a certain, and Dave Chappelle, he talks about it. It is the alphabet people, which, by the way, they're all fighting against each other anyway. I mean, he talks about, like, you know, the L's don't like the G's.
Right.
And this is everyone's getting like lumped in with the same thing, and they're actually very, very different things, right? They're very different. You know, being a transgender is very different to being gay. Is it different to being
Which is why gay people are like...
Gays are like, what is this going on?
Well, and also, like, you guys are just trying to eliminate gay people, right? When they talk about transgender stuff, they're like, no, your girl who is a tomboy is not a boy. She's just gay, probably.
And then, but then you look at Gays Against Grooming. They come out and they say something, and they get absolutely hammered. And they're like, "Hang on a minute!" Like, so.
Right.
But the main issue is this: you have to be. People have to understand. We speak about this a lot. We spoke about it about coronavirus. You've got to get involved, and you have to stand up. It's as simple as that. The days of us like going through our lives and thinking that there's some kind of an order in the world, that is gone. It's gone in America. There's no order. We're heading towards chaos. People are saying that lies are truths. these surgeons, I mean, whatever happened to the Hippocratic Oath, that's gone. You know, they've been jabbing people, they're cutting people's breath. Like, it wouldn't happen if we didn't have moral people that said that this is fundamentally wrong. Right? And we have, I've seen parents go, oh, this is my 2-year-old transgender. I said, let me tell you something, 2-year-olds, I've got a bunch of kids, I can tell you, they don't think of any of that.
Right.
They don't think of any of that. So what we need to do, and this is the people out there, we have to understand that you've got to be willing to risk everything for these kids. Like the greatest generation, we're willing to risk everything so that we could have liberation and we could have our lives and be free. Being free doesn't mean doing everything that you want to do. Being free doesn't mean going out and shooting people and killing people. You know, you are operating within, you know, society's norms, right? And the Overton window's just gone, like, I don't even know where that is anymore, right? So people, in all seriousness, Sarah, 5 years ago, this wouldn't have been a thing. 5 years ago, we're talking about kids that are cutting, they're going off, they don't even know, they don't know what they want. My 16-year-old has got a 4.5 GPA, is really super smart, doesn't know what he wants to do in his life. They don't know. The male brain isn't formed till what, 25?
Yeah.
They don't know.
Sometimes even after that, I question.
I reckon about 50. But you know what I mean? This is like, there's nothing more important than this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is literally the degradation of society. And it goes, it crosses over every single boundary because there are parents that are okaying it. Let's say they don't. Okay, so the parents don't. Well, where's the next line of protection? Is it the teachers that are meant to protect them? They're not protecting them. Okay, so let's say the teachers are corrupt and they want to push their agenda. Then it's the medical staff. What isn't? Do no harm? Isn't that their thing? Oh no, well, what they're doing is they're wrecking people forever. Forever.
Yep.
And we have to understand, we've spoken about this before on the show, is places like Texas and Missouri and these other like red states that there are good, God-fearing people in it, they've got to stand up. There's no coasting. We've got a bunch of people that are in the country that don't know what they're doing. It'll get very serious when there's some kind of, I think a lot of people with the balloon thing, going back to that, they were like, what if this is an EMP?
Right.
Do you have any confidence in any of them doing anything for us? We've seen what they've done to Ohio. Do you think they'd come and help us? Right. Especially Texans? They'd be like, you saw what they were like when the freeze happened, which, by the way, we did have another one and everything was okay. But so for all the ones that were saying, oh, you guys, you. Yeah. So all I'm saying is people have to be engaged. They have to get involved. And if cutting a child's genitals is not getting you involved, then we're done.
Yeah.
We're done as a nation. It's over.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, we got to take a quick break. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Bank on Yourself. So, you know, we've been brainwashed kind of into believing that the only way to grow your money is, you know, you're trying to grow your money for retirement, you got to risk it in the stock market, right? It's not true. You can reach your financial goals and your dreams without taking any unnecessary risks with Bank on Yourself. This is a much better way to grow and protect your money. And it's never had a losing year in over 160 years as a retirement plan alternative. I like that. I like those odds. It's guaranteed predictable growth and retirement income with no luck, no skill, no guesswork required. Your plan doesn't go backward when the markets tumble. Both your principal and growth are locked in. It's tax-free retirement income. You're going to know what your tax rate will be in retirement. 0 under current tax law, which will protect you from the incoming tax tsunami. You are in control. You get to access it for any purpose, no questions asked. They're not going to penalize you, the government, because they're like, oh, you're taking it out too late. Oh, you're taking it out too early. None of that is going to happen, all right? You've got to try it out. You can go to bankonyourself.com/matters, get a free report with all the details on how they're going to do this. I talked to these guys and it really blew my mind when they explained to me the strategy. It is really, really cool. So go there and get the report, understand what they're doing here, and make an informed decision over at bankonyourself.com/matters. That's bankonyourself.com/matters. So for those of you who watch regularly, you may have seen earlier this week, I think, Eric, you were here, we talked about Leah Thomas on the issue of transgenderism and just how deep and dark Leah Thomas's ideas, thoughts, life really is. It's not just a dude who's dressing up as a chick and swimming competition. Gets very, very dark. There's a lot of sexual perversions there. And I want to play for you a clip of a special interview that I did that is over at BlazeTV exclusively. By the way, you can use promo code NEWS, save some extra money right now if you want to sign up to go watch this interview with the girl who discovered it. Here is a clip of that. You mentioned Riley Gaines and the other women in the locker room who did not consent to turning around and seeing a dude's wiener in their faces. Like, sorry, that's me. Welcome. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Sarah Gonzalez. This is how I speak. And so you talk about how they did not consent to that, but it really takes it to such a whole new level when you're talking about this specific sexual deviancy, because not only did they not consent to seeing it, but you're talking about a guy who gets off on literally parading around in front of them as women. So he is using them as his own part of his sexual pleasure.
Right.
And that takes it to a whole new level, because that's not just, well, he just wants to be who he really is inside, and it's not fair that he doesn't get to change like a woman. These women were unwilling participants in his sexual pleasure, which, by the way, don't even get me started on how freaking weird it is that someone is getting sexual pleasure from something other than some sort of a genital stimulation. Like, that's why this is creepy. This is weird. This is total sexual deviancy. This isn't any sort of genital stimulation. He's literally turning himself on by parading around as a woman in front of these unwilling participants in the locker room, and the NCAA is permitting it. 3 letters. It's called AGP. And I very much invite you to tune into this one. I didn't say that it's pleasant. It's not a pleasant thing to learn, but there's satanic art going on. There is that literally the sexual deviancy is a psychiatric disorder, and these people are proud of it. They're proud of their deviancy. They're proud of their mental disorders, and unfortunately, we can't. Big Tech doesn't like us. Did I mention Big Tech doesn't like us? We can't play that interview for you. So you're going to have to make sure to go over to BlazeTV and subscribe to watch that interview over behind the paywall. I hope that you tune in, and we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don Lemon was conspicuously absent from CNN this morning today, just 24 hours after he put his foot in his mouth just a little bit with a comment about 51-year-old Nikki Haley not being in her prime. Watch.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think that I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
What?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. So I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that.
Google it.
So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
We need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it. Everybody
What
at
the
home.
facts are?
When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime and they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime according to
Google.
Well, that didn't go well for him, and he had to tweet out an apology. The reference I made to a woman's prime this morning was inartful and irrelevant, as colleagues and loved ones have pointed out, and I regret it. A woman's age doesn't define her either personally or professionally. I have countless women in my life who prove that every day. I can't get past him saying, don't shoot the messenger, it's just the facts. Like, what study was was this a scientific data that you Googled it and it said women are only in their primes in their 20s and 30s?
They're exactly what they accuse you of.
Yes!
Every time.
Yes! Yes! God. Ugh.